You have to advocate for yourself. You have to tell people what you need. And a lot of times we like to hide it because we don't want to be vulnerable. We don't want to tell people oh, I'm in this space of need, but nobody can help you if they don't know
Nobody
that.
can.
Because a lot of times, especially as Black women, we're like, oh, I'll just do the work and the work will speak for itself. No, it will not. No, it will not. It does not work like that. So I think that we have to get comfortable kind of bigging ourselves up, because I'm definitely that person. I think I'm a humble person, I don't really, you read that bio, I would never be like, listen, I did this, and that, and I done it. I'm not that person, but I have to be and get more comfortable with being listen, I know who I am. I know what I bring to this table. If y'all don't, you're lost, So I think that's a really important point of just advocating for yourself, advocating for your work and for your talent.
Hey y'all, welcome to Inside Out Podcast Season 2. I'm your host, Yamoria Wright. The intention of this podcast is to enrich your life with behind-the-scenes interviews and conversations from thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and creatives about how they live their lives from the inside out. Enjoy. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Inside Out Podcast. We are back in the studio in Burbank, Lazy Pickle Studios. I know it's been a while since we've been here. It is so nice to be in person, back in the studio in Burbank. And I have with me today, Courtney L. Branch of Micheaux Film Festival. What's up, Courtney?
Hey, girl. Hey.
Hello. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode. She's the first person I have back in the studio, y'all. So it feels really good to be here. We're going to have fun today. So if you don't know who Courtney is, you're about to find out. Born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia, Courtney L. Branch attended Georgia State University, where she earned a BA in broadcast journalism with an emphasis in telecommunications and a double minor in Spanish and sociology. Upon graduating, Courtney spent several years in New York, where she jump-started her television career with a fellowship with CBS This Morning. After working between Atlanta and New York markets and her work being recognized on Emmy-nominated productions, Courtney relocated to Los Angeles, where she landed a producing position on Daytime's #1 talk show, Dr. Phil, produced at Paramount Studios. Her most recent role as senior producer at Fox Digital, with previous credits including CBS, MGM, BET, Lifetime, and the CW. Outside of television production, Courtney serves as a director of programming and co-founder of the Micheaux Film Festival, which under her leadership in 2021 made headlines as the first film festival to successfully return to theaters on the West Coast since the COVID-19 shutdown. Ooh, I know that's right. This festival has honored legends like actor and filmmaker Robert Townsend, esteemed cinematographer and director Ernest Dickerson, and Bronze Studio CEO and president Brenda Gilbert. The festival has garnered support sponsorship from media juggernauts Sony Pictures, the Oprah Winfrey Network, and Panavision. Courtney has been featured in Forbes, Deadline, Black Enterprise, and The Hollywood Reporter for her work with the Multicultural Film Festival. Courtney is a member of the Television Academy and an adamant advocate for people of color in the entertainment industry. Y'all, join me to welcome Courtney. Hey, Courtney.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Of course, that bio. So let's chit chat a little bit about that bio. You have accomplished a lot. Did you have a clear vision right out of undergrad as to where you wanted your career to go, and did you kind of map that out and check those things off?
That's a really great question. And the answer is yes and no.
Okay.
So really, my journey actually started before undergrad. I switched high schools my senior year of high school, specifically so I could take a broadcasting class. And it was probably the single most best idea that I had, especially as a, sub 18-year-old. So I first got into broadcasting in high school, taking that class. And from there, I knew that was exactly what I wanted to do. So that's the yes part of the answer. So that part, I knew I was going to go to school for journalism, for broadcasting, knew I wanted to work in the television industry. And that's about as far as the plan went.
Okay.
Because when I first was in school, all I knew was, news, right? Because I'm on the journalism track. I interned at, CNN and CBS and all news related places. So I didn't really realize the breadth of the industry at that point. So when I first started in news, it it wasn't my speed. It wasn't my jam. It was a little monotonous, a little boring for my taste, And so I had a cousin who had previously worked in the industry years prior. She worked on like the Montel show, and like so she's like from the generation prior to me. And she had heard about a talk show that was starting up, and got me in an interview for a PA position. And that's really where I feel like my career really started, because that started me on the talk show path. And so from that show, I ended up doing some court, which ended up getting nominated for Emmys, and then ended up at Dr. Phil. And that was all just very kind of like not even strategic. I fell into each of those positions really by networking and telling people, hey, this is what I want to do. When I was working on the court show that was actually in Atlanta, I knew I didn't want to stay in Atlanta, didn't really want to go back to New York to stay. And I started telling people, I think I want to go to LA. I think I want to go to LA. Within 3 months, someone had recommended me for an AP job in LA on Dr. Phil. So it's all been kind of like, strategic, but also just kind of like going where the wind takes me, which I'm a Libra, I'm an air sign. Like that's what we do.
You're a Libra?
Yes.
Did I know that?
I don't know.
When's your birthday?
September 25th.
October 3rd.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Libras. Okay, that's awesome. So I want to dig in a little bit about you being intentional in your conversations with people, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's something that, believe it or not, for me, I am definitely like go where the wind takes me. I'm clear. But when I come into networking or spaces to connect, I don't always lead with like where I want to go next. And it sounds like that's something that you've really done. And I think it could be helpful for people to understand some of the ways you do that organically when you come into a space or you're just connecting with people.
Yeah. So I wouldn't say that like if I'm like in a networking environment that I necessarily do that, because I really do thrive on genuine connections and genuine friendships and relationships. I'm not the type of person where like, oh, you're the such and such of this company, I gotta go talk to you and like make sure that I'm not that person. Like I want to make sure that if I call you today, I can call you tomorrow, right? But with the people who I do have like in my network, in my community, I'm very intentional about that. I used to be the person where as soon as a show ended and I was freelancing, I post on Facebook, hey friends, I'm looking for a job. Like, because people don't know how to help you if you aren't telling them what you need.
Yeah.
So I think that's very important. Like I just recently posted on LinkedIn a couple weeks ago, like this is the longest I've ever had a job hunt. Like this is crazy. And then I've had a few people reach out like, hey, I'm going to try and help you. I'm going to try and da-da-da. This person's looking for that. Nothing's come through yet, but at least people know how to help me.
Yeah.
And I think that's such an important part. Like you have to advocate for yourself. You have to tell people what you need. And a lot of times we like to like hide it because we don't want to be vulnerable. We don't want to tell people like, oh, I'm in this space of need, but nobody can help you if they don't know
Nobody
that.
can. That's period. I love that. Thank you. How important for you? I know you have a close-knit family, yes? How important has that been? How's your family been? What challenges have you even had with having to move around as much when it comes to your, your core support?
That's a great question. So the one thing I love about my family is that they have never tried to like tie me down or be like, oh no, you can't leave because X, Y, and Z. Like I've always traveled by myself. Like I have always been the one to just pick up and move like, oh, I'm going to go to New York. Or I told my parents how I told you when I was telling people I wanted to go to LA, I gave them a 2-month heads up. I was like, hey, I'm starting to tell people that I want to go to LA. Once it happens, it's going to happen. Like, so just be prepared. So I love that they've always supported me in that and known that it's kind of, it's what's best for my career. It's like we have to kind of move around until we find a place that we can settle.
Yeah.
So they really support that, and I really appreciate that. Another thing that's just great about them is that we're a pretty fun family. So it's like for Christmas we went on a cruise together. So it's not just like, oh, Courtney has to come back home or they all have to come out and visit me. We go different places. I just went to Barcelona with my mom and my sister. So it's like it's fun, and I think it gives us a new way to connect and to be with each other.
I love that. I love that. Can you describe a time where you had to take a big risk? Maybe it is that move, maybe it's now, but a big risk that you had to take and what lessons you learned in that risk, good or bad or indifferent?
Ooh, that's a great one. I have two. First one was definitely the move to LA. I moved to LA with 6 days notice, I think. And I also went to a music festival like right before the move. Listen, I was like, you're not going to stop my plans. Like I still got to go to my festival. But yeah, when I interviewed for Dr. Phil, got the interview. They called my references, all that fun stuff. And then it was maybe a Wednesday. They're like, yeah, so can you start next Monday? Yeah, sure can.
And you were already here, right?
I was in Atlanta.
You were in Atlanta.
I was in Atlanta.
Oh.
It was a Wednesday.
Okay.
I was in Atlanta. I was leaving to go to Philly on Friday for a music festival. Did the festival, came back Monday, started Dr. Phil on Tuesday.
I know that's right.
So that was one of those things where it was just like, okay, we just gotta do it. Mm-hmm. And that's always kind of been my mindset of like, if there's an opportunity and it's something that I want, I'm gonna make it happen.
Right.
Because that's important to me. And I think the thing that I learned is that I can do that. Like I can move across the country with less than a week's notice and just pick up the pieces and just go for it, you know? So that was the first one. And then the second one was definitely choosing to leave my job and work on the festival full time. This was in 2021. So pandemic, I was producing virtually. It was a lot. It was a crazy work environment at the time. And I decided to just kind of bet on myself, bet on the company, and decided to just quit and then do the festival full time. And I've been doing the festival full time ever since.
Wow.
Which is kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah.
And I mean, I could go on and on about the lessons learned from that. I mean, entrepreneurship is a daily lesson every single day. But I think with that, like I learned that, you know, I can rely fully on myself and fully on my talent and my skill. Of course, with the help of God, 100%. But it's something that I don't think I ever would have done, one, had it not been the pandemic. And two, had I not already had this like burgeoning community and company already kind of ready for me to like push it to the next level.
Right. You felt that kind of like tug, that like it was necessary.
It was because at the time we had been running the festival. We were going to our third year running the festival, and I had been working full time while also working full time on the festival. And it was getting to the point where it was like, okay, I don't know if I can do both of these things. And like I said, my work environment wasn't the best at the time. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go full throttle into this, and let's just see what happens. I'm very much a let's see what happens type girl.
I love it. I love that. I mean, because people, you know, Micheaux Film Festival you've all made such a name for the festival, and there's such a brand and expectation, but it's great to know that came also out of taking risk, and that everything, as well planned as it is, everything can't be calculated.
Yeah.
You know, everything can't be calculated. What, as a woman, are some, challenges and also just advice that you have for women navigating? Because you're moving from broadcasting journalism into, media entertainment. It's all media, but into the Hollywood world. And what kind of advice can you give women about making that adjustment and that change? Because I do know, whether we are experiencing it direct or if it is from trauma, either way, it can feel really scary to do those things as women because you want to be taken seriously as well, right? And you're going into these new spaces. I mean, I think my biggest piece of advice is, one, just believe that you can do it. Like, honestly, the power of life and death lies in the power of the tongue. Like, honestly, if you believe that you can do something, the chances that you're going to be able to accomplish it, through the roof. So one, just believe in yourself. And then I think number two is advocate for yourself. And that's something that I learned, I feel, a little bit later than I would have liked. Because a lot of times, especially as Black women, we're like, oh, I'll just do the work and the work will speak for itself. No, it will not. No, it will not. It does not work like that. So I think that we have to get comfortable kind of like bigging ourselves up, because I'm definitely that person. Like, I think I'm a humble person, like I don't really... like you read that bio, I would never be like, listen, I did this, and that, and I done it. Like, I'm not that person, but I have to be and get more comfortable with being like, listen, I know who I am. I know what I bring to this table. Like, if y'all don't, you're lost, So I think that's a really important point of just advocating for yourself, advocating for your work and for your talent. Yeah, I love that. That's definitely major, because I know for me, it can feel as though, well, if I I don't know how to lead with it all the time, but sometimes you got to do it afraid. You got to do it. You might sound confident to others. You might be quivering, but it's like you have to make sure people know who you are, what you bring to the table.
Yes.
Because even you're talking about, posting and saying, hey, I'm, looking for work or whatever. You have to be confident when you get into that room. If I'm going to recommend you, I got to know that you're going to be able to sit and be like, yes, I do not know how to do this and not. Well, I think, and maybe.
Girl, even if I don't, I'm like, I sure do. Yeah.
I had to learn that the
YouTube
hard way.
University.
I had to learn that the hard way, Courtney. Did that ever happen with you? Where like being in positions where you're just like, oh my goodness, like I know more than this person, but they are researching everything, and I know that, oh man, if I would have just spoke up.
Right, exactly. And then one thing that you said about doing it afraid, I think that I kind of had the opposite. I'm never afraid to like move or leave or leap or whatever. But I think the important thing also is finding the excitement in things. Because you might not be afraid, but you need to find what makes you really excited about that move, about that jump. Like that's really important.
I do want to talk a little bit more about your journey into being able to even be the director of programming and having that confidence when it comes to the film world. Did you watch a lot of films growing up? How did you make that transition?
Absolutely. So even though my background is in unscripted television, like I grew up like, again, with my family, like that was the thing that we did. Like we watched TV together. We went to see movies. Like I grew up having a really good idea of just like story structure and not even like really knowing that's what it's called. That's what it is. But it's like I understood those things. And I definitely think that, working with the festival has just enhanced that even more. So it's like now I tell people this, like I can know within the first 2 minutes if a film is going to be good or not.
I try to tell people that when because for Black TV and Film Collective, when I was there, we do like little screenings and stuff. And I would give filmmakers advice to like programmers really do know, like people are watching this stuff over and over again. Like it don't take long.
It does not take long at all. Like, and there are just little things you can kind of pick up on. And it's like, you have to be able to, one, again, understand story structure, understand character development, which is one of my favorite parts of just like creating in general and storytelling. Understanding like, okay, is there a world here that's being built? What are the rules of the world? Like making sure the filmmaker is actually giving you that information in their project, right? And that's going a little deeper into the weeds, but it's like,
I love that though.
I think it was something that came a little bit naturally to me. And then as I worked with the festival more and more, it just helped develop it more.
Yeah. I want to ask, why character development?
So again, I'm a TV girly and, film is more plot driven, whereas television is much more character driven. And I think probably just from all the time I've spent watching TV, it's just, I don't know, it's something about it. I think when it comes to television and character development, there's that humanness that I always like to see. So like one of my favorite shows is Succession. And I love it because it's like, even though every single character is a terrible person, you still find ways to like try to root for them. And like, they're so humanized, even though they're so awful. Like, it's something about that I absolutely love.
Yeah. I love Succession. And one of the things that really stands out to me about that show is that there is built-in empathy, or we're seeking it, right? I don't know if it's built in as much as it is like, as the viewer, you realize there are things I learn about myself and literally as a person because I am seeking to attach like some sort of, just connection with these people, like you said, who they're all really flawed and kind of terrible, and there's a scale of terrible, but they're not good. You know what I mean? But it's like, oh, but I like this. This is the good one of, you know what I mean?
Right.
And I love how that challenges us, just our psyche too as humanity, which is great. So moving into Micheaux Film Festival, how did you become a part of it? How did you know, how this is your brainchild? What was that process like?
Yeah. So it's so funny because really, like, the true version of how this started is back in the day in 2018, Noelle and I started throwing watch parties for Insecure episodes. Because it was like the height of Insecure, probably like season 3 or so. And not everyone really had HBO, but everyone loved the show. So we started throwing watch parties at like this local bar. And from there, we just like, kept everyone's emails, we blasted out, yada, yada. And then at the time, I had recently left Dr. Phil, so I was working in casting, and I don't know if you know about casting, but casting is a 9-to-5 job. So all of a sudden I had all of this time on my hands because I'm used to like 10, 12-hour days. And I was like, what do I do with all this time? So I wanted to get more into like event planning. And so Noel decided that he wanted to rent out a theater and show some of his short films. And then he was like, you know what? Why don't I invite a few other like indie friends, and let's he's like, and we'll show some of their films as well. And I was like, well, you know what? I have all this time. I'll help you with that. So like, again, like kind of intentional, but kind of just like falling into it. So we did the first short film series, which is all it was supposed to be. A short film series, one day, 13 projects.
Oh, that's funny.
In 2018. And then here comes the next year, and people are like, so when's the next one? And we're like, oh, okay, I guess there needs to be a next one. So it's like, we didn't even like register that this was going to be like something that is now in its 6th year of operation. We were just like, oh, you know, you want to show some films, you have friends who want to show some films, let's do it for the community.
Right.
Like, no idea. And so growing it from that, you know, it started as a 1-day festival, and then year 2 was a 3-day festival. So we did the whole weekend, and now we're up to an entire week.
Yeah.
Like crazy.
Wow. What are some like happy surprises that you've had from being, you know, co-founder, director of programming for the festival as pertains to your career?
That's a great question. I mean, the biggest one is just like, it's opened my network up tremendously. Like that's probably the biggest thing that the festival has done for me. So it's like, now it's like I can email someone that I otherwise probably wouldn't have reached to and be like, hey, I'm co-founder of the Micheaux Film Festival. And they're like, oh yeah, I've heard of that. So it's like, okay, that's helpful. I'll let you know once I get a job, but it's definitely widened my network, which I really, really appreciate.
Yeah.
And I also think that it's just it's helped widen my range of knowledge about the industry as well, because indie film was something that I was not like super tapped into, and now I'm kind of like one of the leaders on that side of the industry, which is kind of fascinating. But I also am a person where it's like, if I'm interested in something, I want to learn everything about it. So I've learned so much. And I think learning about the indie side of the industry also helps inform the mainstream side of the industry. So it has really broadened my horizons.
Yeah. That's amazing. Okay. We talked about this. I want you to give some people some advice. People, now those of y'all like, well, I submitted my film 2 years ago, and how come Give us the real. Like, what are some advice you can have for filmmakers to strengthen their applications for Micheaux or any other film festival?
Yes. Okay. So I'm going to answer that question first, and then I'm going to give a little extra. Okay. So first things first. And we put out a social media post about this recently. Because I feel like it's something that you would think people would do, but people don't always do. Give us your log line. Give us your log line in a concise manner, you know, 1 sentence, 2 sentences or less. If you want to put a synopsis after that, amazing. Great. We will read it. We also read like the director statements. We read the overview. Like, I'm the type of person where I don't even watch an episode of something without reading the show description. Okay. So it's like, I want to read all the things, all of the context, all of the insight that you can provide into your project. I want to know that, right? Because it's going to help me as I'm watching your project understand why you created this story, why you felt like you were the one to tell it. It's the same thing about like when you pitch, right? Right. Like, why are you the person to tell this story? Why do you want to tell this story? Like, we want to know all of that. So yeah, fill out all the information that Film Freeway allows you to give.
You said complete the application.
Listen, that's number 1. Number 2, you know, if you have like notable talent or notable producers in your project, list that out in the key credits. If you're feeling real spicy, email us and let us know. Like, we had one project this year that was like, hey, Lupita is one of our executive producers. And I was like, great to know. Like, thank you for telling us that. So it's just like, those little things are so important. Yeah. In addition to that, like, uploading like your film posters and like film stills, like we really do like want to see all of that. We really look at it all. So I think that's those are like my 3 key points that I feel are very important. And then going past that, I feel like the really important part, especially when it comes to short films and submitting to festivals, that a lot of filmmakers overlook is the actual strategy of submitting to festivals. And that really goes back to, what is your goal for the project, right? So if you're producing a short film, especially if it's your first film, the only goal you should have is to get this thing seen by as many people as possible. So if you are submitting to the top tier festivals, one, the chances that you get in are, I mean, it's just a numbers game. It's very, very small, right? So if you are not one of the top 1% filmmakers, chances that your project is going to get into Sundance are very, very slim, right? So now you're wasting money, right? on submission costs.
Saving y'all money. You better be listening.
Listen, I'm just saying. So I think like one of the things that people don't do that they absolutely should do is target the regional festivals. Target festivals whose missions align with your project or with you as a filmmaker, right? Target festivals that are BIPOC centered if you are a BIPOC creator, right? And it's not that it's easier to get in, but at least you know that this is a festival that has you in mind, right? And the other thing is when it goes to, you know, just like wanting to get it seen by as many people as possible, if you're submitting to these bigger perennial festivals, a lot of times they have premiere restrictions. So now, until you premiere at their festival, you can't even premiere or screen at any other festivals. And so that's like shortcutting your entire festival strategy. So it's really just thinking about, again, the goal and then what makes sense for that goal. And I think a lot of times people just want to have like the bragging rights of, oh, I got into this festival. It's like, okay, cool. But is anyone coming to see it? Are you able to screen it anywhere else? Like, because those are the things that are really important, especially for a short film.
That's amazing. Thank you, y'all. Round of applause. And in addition to that, too, you just touched upon this. You have to market and promote your screening.
Absolutely.
You need to, like, it's still up to you to invite people. You have all these different blocks. You still got to get people to sit in the theater.
Exactly.
You still want people to show up on the step and repeat on the red carpet. Like, you need your people there. You know what I mean? So like there is a greater strategy. It's like you got in and then you don't want to be the only person from the team.
Listen, I have seen some things.
You know, so it's even building that into the budget, right? Like, can everyone get there? Can you get a few people there? You know, that's major. Thank you for sharing that. I know it's gonna be very fruitful for a lot of people. In terms though of the festival, what's next? What can we expect from Micheaux Film Festival? Because y'all, I do believe this is the first time or the first year that y'all have like started doing other programming outside of just the festival, right? Yeah. So there's a greater brand being built because you're paying attention.
Yes. So yeah, this year we put a really big focus on what we call quarterly programming, which is really turning into monthly programming at this point. But you know, if you got a good thing, you roll with it. Like you just go with it. So that's number one. We actually have a workout session coming up.
Like really, like working out?
Yes, girl. We're partnering with Mayweather Boxing Gym.
I saw that.
Yes, like trying to get all of the creative. And we're actually going to have a official selection announcement party on August 1st.
Okay.
Yes, so that's exciting. And then taking us into the festival season in October, really working on some really cool partnerships. We're moving from Regal Cinemas to the Culver Theater. No, I know. I'm like, the one time I'll probably be able to walk. Now I got to get in my car and drive. But, it's fine. It's fine.
Expansion.
Exactly. But Culver it's a beautiful theater. We've actually done a few activations there over the past year. So we're excited to move there and kind of make Culver our new home for a little bit. But yeah, we have a couple of really exciting things, a couple of really exciting partnerships I can't go into just yet, but I'm excited the most for this Hilltop party. And really it's just going to be an opportunity for the filmmakers to connect with each other, to come out, to mix, mingle. Nice. We're all about that community, finding your future collaborators. So yeah, I'm excited about that. I'm excited about everything we have coming up for this year.
Yeah, that's exciting. Yes. And y'all have really poured into the festival. And that I think also speaks to, for those of you who maybe are trying to figure out, like, you're like in a liminal space or trying to figure out, do I leave my 9-to-5 to really go into my endeavors? Those partnerships and sponsorships and activations, a lot of that can't happen if you are working a 9 to 5 as well. There's only so much you can do in a day.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's like, this year has been just tough in general on the schedule because, we also are in post on our feature film. Thank you. So it's a lot of like push and pull, giving and taking, like where we can. But ultimately, trying to keep that focus on just growing the brand and growing the company.
I love it. I love it. Laser focus. What else can we expect from you? So you write.
I mean, more or less.
Come on. I mean, you just, I'm like, you might not have done it yet, but I feel like you got like an award-winning film that you just kind of sitting on.
Oh, interesting.
You're into character development, story. I feel like when you're ready to pick up the proverbial pen, I feel like if you haven't already, you got something.
That's an interesting take. I'm very much focused on getting something full-time in development because I feel like that's like that good middle ground, and I think I have a great creative brain for development, both scripted and unscripted. So I'm excited to kind of see where that endeavor takes me. I'm also in the very, very early stages, hopefully not as early by the time this airs, but in the very early stages of putting together a consultancy company specifically for indie filmmakers. Because a lot of just like the little gems that, I gave today, I feel like a lot of people don't know. And I want to be able to help people. And I'm starting to get a lot of calls from people like, hey, I want to make a film. So can you tell me how to da-da-da? I was like, I can, but you're going to have to pay. You're going to have to pay that rate.
It took you a lot of money and investment and stuff to get that information.
Listen.
No, you didn't get that information for free.
But listen, okay. But I really do want to, I just want to help. Because it's like sometimes you see things where it's just like, oh, if I had just gotten there just a little bit sooner, I could have helped them fix this. Or I could, help them create a better strategy for this project. Or, just like the small things. So I would love to be able to be that person in these filmmakers' story. We're like, oh, I was going down this lane and she helped swoop me that way. That's what I'm really looking forward to.
Oh, that's exciting. I look forward to you launching that. That's awesome.
Yes.
Okay, well, before we close out, do you have any last advice or, any advice you want to leave in the room for filmmakers in general? And then I do want to just bring it back to like women filmmakers, Black women filmmakers, any advice you have for them, those who feel like they're ready to leave the industry, they're ready to dip, they don't want to do this anymore.
That's a lot of pressure, Yamoria. Because this industry is...
just advice, just a little bit of ministry.
It's tough right now. I think it's so true what people say about this industry that, if you don't love it, leave, because it is the toughest thing you will ever do in your life. And if you don't have absolute passion for it, you're not going to make it. And that's not being negative. It's just like, it is what it is. Right. So I think, if you are, and I'm at the point where, like I said, I've been job hunting for a while and it's been taking a minute. And every now and then I get that thing in the back of my head where it's like, well, should I start looking in other places? Or should I start dabbling to see if, and I'm just like, I can't do it. I can't do it because I don't know what else I would do if I was not producing and storytelling and creating. I literally do not know what I would do.
Yeah.
So if you don't have that type of passion, then, maybe keep your day job and then create on the side because that's totally possible too. And I think be open to the different possibilities. Everybody doesn't have to quit their job in order to create content, in order to storytell, in order to produce. You can do both. So I think it's about knowing your limits, knowing your talent, and knowing your priorities to figure out what works the best for you.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing that it's so cliche because I feel like everybody says it, but no person's way is the right way. It's it is literally what works best for you. It's my career started in news and it went to talk show and went to court and went to casting.
Casting. I didn't know about the casting part. I didn't know about that in your journey.
I worked on the first season of Love Island.
Oh, snap. Okay.
Yup.
Okay.
Yup. But yeah, it's like, and that just shows you, like, and then now I'm a festival curator. Like, it just, you know, life.
But then it also, like, all makes sense too. Like, when you look at it, it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But in the moment, it's like, huh?
Right. It's like, how did we get, oh, okay. But it's like, you know, no one way is the right way. So it's like, if your way is needing to keep working that 9 to 5 so you can make your projects and make your films, then do that.
Right.
Don't feel like you have to be starving in order to create something that you're proud of, you know? So I think that's the one thing. And then let me see what else. I think, you know, like I mentioned, just advocating for yourself, advocating for your work.
Too, if you want.
Advocate for yourself, advocate for your work, network, build with the people around you. I think that's so important. I know Issa Rae said it best when she said everyone wants to network up, network across, because those are the same people who are going to be the executives to help you get your project sold, to help it get it acquired, etc. As you progress in your career, they are also progressing in their career. And the last thing I would say is just be kind. Be kind to people. This is a very tough industry. And I feel like there's a lot of negatives in the industry. There's a lot of backstabbers or people who will take your idea and try and make it for themselves. Be kind, because if you do that, it will always pay it forward to you. Always, always, always.
I love that. See, I knew you had it. You said it was difficult. I'm like, you could do this. Look at your journey so far. You can answer this question. No, thank you so much for pouring into the audience. That's amazing.
Oh, I forgot. Festival dates.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Festival dates, October 21st through October 27th.
October 21st through 27th.
Yes.
2024.
And then we can have a special discount code for Inside Out listeners.
Okay, Inside Out listeners.
Okay.
If you listen, if you got this far, then you know you get a special discount code.
Yes, you can use code MFF24 Inside Out, and that's going to be for submissions and passes.
Ooh. You heard it here first. I love that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Before we close out, hurt, heal, joy. What, and it could be in this world, in your life, is currently hurting you? What do you want to heal? And what brings you joy?
Ooh, okay. I like that. Hurt, heal, joy. Okay. Hurt is this job hunt. That's for sure, which everybody is struggling with. So at least I'm not alone. Mm-hmm. Heal. I would like to heal the industry.
Oh, that's real.
Yeah. I would like to heal the lack of representation and the pullback on focus on diversity, because if you're paying attention, that's been happening. Yep. And what brings me joy, I think what brings me joy is the fact that even though I am still looking for a full-time opportunity, I still have the opportunity to work with the film festival full-time, and I'm still able to give other creators opportunities. I'm able to platform their work, and I'm able to bring them together. And I think that, you know, that is something that gives me a lot of joy. Yeah. And it's a really bright point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, that is all going to come back to you 100-fold. 100-fold. The way that you are pouring into creatives, that you avail yourselves to them, to people's dreams. We know that people, even in a Noel story about, like, I think he was living in his car at one point, right? Like, even, like, people suffer almost, you know, for these dreams. They're bleeding out for these dreams, right? And to be able to give people that platform and launching your consulting, so that your agency or company, so that people can, you know, pump the brakes on going in the wrong direction, or, you know, going in directions that's going to take them longer to get to their destination. All of that work is going to go back to you. So I want you to just keep on. You're going to be so blessed this year. It is going to be beyond your wildest dreams and imagination, and all of the wait will make sense. Just as the rest of your journey has made sense as we sit here right now.
Amen.
Okay? Hallelujah. Thank you so much. How can we find you? Where can we follow you? How do we support the festival? Let us know. Let people know.
Yes. So you can find me at Court Produced It on all platforms. I mean, the only platforms I'm on are Instagram and Twitter, but those two platforms. And then you can find the festival at Micheaux Film Fest on all platforms as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Of course. Y'all, This has been another episode of Inside Out Podcast. Make sure you subscribe if you are watching on YouTube. Subscribe, like, comment, let us know what you are thinking, how this episode resonated, and really just encourage you. And then if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Audible, or Amazon Music, please also comment, support, like, rate. Okay, keep the show going, right? Keep the show going strong. Thank you so much for tuning in. This has been another episode of Inside Podcast. Peace out. Wait. Before you go, don't forget to like this episode. Give it a thumbs up or a heart, depending on where you're watching or listening, and comment. I will continue the conversation with you in the comments, and be sure to subscribe wherever you watch or listen to Inside Out Podcast. You can catch Inside Out Podcast on YouTube. Of course, you can listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Audible, Amazon Music, or iHeartRadio. And y'all, that is not it. If you really love you some Inside Out Podcast, there is a Patreon community just for you. For only $15 per month, you can join the Patreon as a member. And every 3 months, I will send you some Inside Out Podcast swag, y'all. Yes, straight from the Inside Out Podcast store, just for showing us some love. You can, of course, follow Inside Out Podcast on Instagram and TikTok. Thank you for showing us love, and stay tuned for the next episode. Whoa.
Drop it, shake it, pop it.